It is indeed almost the weekend, folks. We're halfway there. Hola, indeed. JK and Elon sued. Yes. Um, that is a possibility. Whether or not something comes of it is yet to be seen. But essentially, what the TLDR is that the nonstop harassment of the Olympic boxer that won gold got JK and Elon Musk, among other people, I want to say, possibly for that lawsuit. Good on her. Honestly, I hope she gets that bag. Kamikaze, welcome. Hey. Wicked Edge, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Yeah, I hope she does get that bag, because F those people. All right, folks, we got plenty of stuff to go through, so I think we should get started. Folks, if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel, there are many different ways of doing that. Consider checking out the YouTube. Keep liking the stream. I see you guys. I see you guys on the YouTube. Thank you for liking the stream. Subscribe if you haven't. Consider checking out the brand new merch store. All the support really does help us out, and my final request is that you consider joining the Discord, folks. The Discord is full of awesome people, and every last Saturday of the month, we do movies. This last Saturday, we're going to do Dune #2. Movie night, August 31st. It's rainy here today, so I'm super sleepy. Well, I hear that. It's not rainy here, but I feel you on the super sleepy part. All right, folks, let's get started. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. A nap stream, yeah. A 12 hour nap stream. You know, there are people that do that. There are people that do that. Frozen Obscurity, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Yeah, because I don't know what the I mean, I guess people like it, but I don't know. I wish it would rain here. Yeah, it hasn't rained here in quite a while. Sometimes I join. I don't want anyone to know that. It's a way to spam earn points. Ah. Gotcha.
So, as you all know by now, Elon Musk had his big interview yesterday with Donald Trump, and predictably, it was a train wreck. Now, I don't think that anybody really expected it to work because the website just hasn't worked very well since Elon Musk took over. I mean, DeSantis' campaign launched last summer was an unmitigated disaster, but I feel like
Yeah, so like I don't know what the expectations were from that. To be quite honest. I'm hoping to get some clips in this video. Because I didn't watch that that train wreck.
like this was somehow worse, arguably. So it was scheduled to start at 5 p.m. PST, and nobody could get in. Most people were hit with this space unavailable message, myself included. And then some people were pointing out that you could get in using the mobile app, so I tried that. Still wasn't able to get in. Finally, I try again, and I was able to get in. But the problem is that after I managed to finally get in, nobody was talking. And I heard some papers shuffling briefly and someone mouth breathing loudly into the mic until they muted it. But no interview. Silence. So there was a significant delay because I think that the space just couldn't handle that much traffic. And knowing that this is a terrible look for the platform, Elon Musk decides to take to Twitter to lie about the problems that they're having.
Nobody believes that, okay? If it was a massive DDoS attack, like, wouldn't the whole site, wouldn't the whole site go down? At least this wasn't someone being, and as I said the other day, even if that was true, how could you not expect how could you not expect that that could be a possibility? Finally, someone who said DDoS right. Everyone just keeps spelling out the letters. Yeah, pro streamer.
Tweeting out, quote, "There appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X.
DDoS, not DDoS. Okay? Anyone who's watched the movie Hackers should know better. Okay?
Working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a smaller number of live listeners and post the conversation later." But there was no DDoS attack. The website just wasn't functioning properly as everyone expected.
Right, and even if there was a DDoS attack, then, again, you should have been prepared for that. You're literally having a presidential candidate on your platform, dude. Okay? Like, you should know this. This is just like common sense. This is common sense. Like, even when I got swarmed, I put together a little stop switch that can stop the bot raids that used to happen. Nowadays, doesn't happen as much anymore. Those hate raids. But yeah, I was ready for it. So what did you think, like, having a presidential candidate? You didn't think that could be a potential target? Like, I understand. Yeah, do better. Impossible.
But after a while,
impossible for Elon.
the interview finally got off the ground, and both Elon Musk and Donald Trump were able to speak for 2+ hours, and now, the day after, they're both celebrating it as a huge success, while simultaneously whining about headlines talking about the technical difficulties, which we'll get to in a moment.
I'm so freaking glad that I didn't decide to, like, try to enter the Twitter space, because, man, that would have been so aggravating, trying to go into the space, not being able to access the space, having to reload the app or go to the website or whatever. Man.
But there wasn't much substance in this conversation, predictably. And if you missed it, you really didn't miss much.
Oh, thank God.
You know, it was essentially two dumb bitches telling each other exactly for 2 hours straight. But to even call it an interview is a little bit too charitable, because Trump blabbed the entire time and barely let Elon Musk get a word in edgewise. And whenever we did hear from Elon Musk, he was basically just saying, yeah. Like, I don't know how many times he said yeah, but if somebody counted it, I would argue it was probably at least above 50, and that's maybe a more conservative estimate. But, you know, everything that Trump was saying got no pushback whatsoever from Elon Musk, the interviewer. And to kind of show you what I mean, I want to play this clip from...
Oh, we do have clips. Awesome. Because I ain't listening to all that, boss, okay? It's amazing to say this, but I'd rather listen to Trump talk than Elon. You know what? I actually kind of agree with that. Okay? I actually kind of agree with that, but man. 2+ hours? I don't know.
From Jordan Uhl, he shared this when he was listening, and just get a sense of how it went, because this, I think, is emblematic of how the whole thing went, in my opinion.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him. You know,
what they did with this guy, and I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine.
None of that is true, by the way.
And we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess.
What do you mean no inflation? That's not a thing. Okay? Bro. I don't know if you know how, like, economics works. But, yeah. Though I'd much rather hear 2 hours of Gilbert Gottfried talking to Bobcat Goldthwait. I could listen to Gilbert Gottfried for 2 hours if the alternative was listening to Trump or Elon, to be quite frank.
If you think of it, and we wouldn't have had Afghanistan, but we think of it, you take a few of those events away and we have a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by oil.
No, that's not. Oh man, I'm so glad I freaking didn't have to listen to this. I don't know if I could have handled the psychic damage.
Riveting conversation, gentlemen. Now, you might have noticed that Trump sounded a little bit off there.
A true meeting of the minds, huh?
Like his dentures weren't on properly almost, and I can assure you that it was so much worse at other times. Case in point.
As I see, you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then
some people were trying to say that it was just his audio, because I kept seeing this Trump dentures discourse on freaking Twitter. Now that we actually get to listen, I don't know. Eureka. Now, why didn't he fix inflation when he was president? Because when I was president, there was no inflation. You had zero inflation. I'm certain that Elon Trump interview is the soundtrack to play in the loop in hell. True.
You do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that... But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different... Look, she hasn't done an interview...
Michael Cohen said it wasn't dentures. He found it totally odd, too. Does it matter? The man is old and lost his teeth. Probably. I don't know. That's the least of the issues. That's the least of the problems. I'll tell you that. 2 hours of Trump is cruel and usual punishment. This interview is 2 hours of circle jerking, truly numbing. Yeah, I that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm gathering. Or from what I saw on Twitter. Like, it was just completely unlistenable.
This whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup.
Yeah. So if I had to guess, I think that he was having a hard time getting his dentures to stick. It's happened to him before, but who knows? I mean, he sounded like he had a lisp.
I only made it about 20 minutes in before tapping out. Man, impressive. My hats off to you. You made it to 20 minutes because like the way Mike Figueroa was describing it, like the initial technical difficulties would have been enough for me to like not like I would have tried to get in maybe about a total of like 2 times and then I would have just peaced out. I don't think he has dentures, even Cohen said. Is it just like a natural lisp? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
And because he sounded like that, people immediately started shitposting about it, and they were sharing images of Donald Trump like this.
So this is where I started seeing like the discourse. Welcome, Echo Rusted Dragon, Fomashino.
Photoshopped with no teeth to kind of represent how he sounded to them, saying, grab him by the pussy. And I've got to say, I can't unsee that after hearing him sound that way. But you don't even have to use Photoshop to imagine him looking goofy during that interview, because a photo was taken of him during the call. And my guy was wearing the most massive shoulder pads I've ever seen in my entire life. So he looked as goofy as he sounded, but what he said made him seem so much more goofy. So there was a moment where he was talking about Kamala Harris on the cover of Time magazine, and he actually...
He's Batman. I don't know who Cohen said it was odd too. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe it was his microphone. Maybe he was like, he had the microphone way too close. Who knows? I don't know.
Believe it or not, says something nice about her.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
The alarming spike in inflation soaring to its highest level in nearly...
So he says something nice, but it's not just a nice compliment that he gives her. It's a little too nice to where it's creepy. So let me show you what I mean.
Yeah, those are some NFL-style shoulder pads.
And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look.
Yeah.
She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
I'm glad that he chose to just leave it at that, because if he kept talking about how Kamala Harris reminds him of Melania, then
Oh no! Oh no! Really? He actually said that. Whew. Okay. Jesus Christ. Whenever Trump tries to say anything about anything positive about a woman, it's always about her appearance. Yes, that's true. That's true. For men, it's always strong or smart. Exactly. Damn, that's exactly correct. Every time he talks positive about a guy, an incredible, strong leader, an incredibly intelligent man, that's true. It's her lack of interest in him that reminds me most of Melania. He wants to capture her and put her into a gilded cage. That's just so bizarre. Like, what do you even say to that? Like, dude, the only thing that you could... The words that formulated in your brain and then you decided to speak those words were, yeah, the person I'm running against kind of reminds me of my wife. Question mark. Okay. I got nothing. I got nothing. No. What am I supposed to add to that?
I genuinely would not want to have heard what he had to say. But, you know, we've talked about some of the more goofy stuff, the technical difficulties, but I do want to dive in.
Wait, are you saying women have any value other than their appearance? Amazing. Wow. Welcome, Wolf Glenn. That's just so bizarre. Like, so wait, what is the thought? Can we just like, what is the thought process behind that statement? I mean, I'm genuinely asking, like, out of all the things that he could have possibly said, he just says, oh, yeah, reminds me of our great First Lady. That's the clip.
She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and actually,
Yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She looked. She looked. Didn't look.
Yeah.
She didn't look like Camilla. That's right.
Kamala, but Camilla, I guess. Sure.
But
What?
of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Okay. Um. I think he's saying that the drawing is fake news. Really? Is that you think that that's what he's trying to get at? Because I don't. Nothing is computing. Like I can't try to piece together the thought process that went behind that statement. Camilla is in royal. Yeah, word garbage because there's nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing there that I can be like, oh, well, he might have been referencing, like, I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, but like, I just don't get it.
Into the substance, because Trump did at least try to talk about policy. And since he's deeply unintelligent, that also didn't go well for him, predictably. For example, listen to what he says about climate change.
You know, the biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that.
Yeah, ask the people of Sarasota, Florida, if they're enjoying their new oceanfront property. Can we get like? Let me see if I can get like. Oh yeah, I think it's this one. I think it was this video. Here.
Here's a video of a woman using the Wi-Fi detector to discover the hidden camera in what appears to be her Airbnb. And it looks like the...
Okay.
In the Laurel Meadows neighborhood, homes and cars are still underwater for the 5th day in a row. You see it right here, captured again today, high above by our Action Air 1. ABC Action News reporter Jada Williams joins us live from that Sarasota neighborhood tonight. And Jada, I know those neighbors say they cannot believe the water is still there.
Camilla's the... Oh, okay, gotcha. The way he said it. Okay, gotcha. That's why I don't Airbnb.
Yeah, guys, take a look at this right here. You would think that this is a neighborhood that's on a canal or some type of waterfront property, but it is not. There should not be any water here.
Yeah, is this what Trump means by, like, new oceanfront property? Because, like, ask these people if they're enjoying their new oceanfront property.
This has become a little bit of an access point. A lot of people have been taking their boats and their kayaks through this water, again, water that's not even supposed to be here, getting between the dry land where I'm standing at right now and their homes that's over there. Any other access point to get to their house, you're gonna have to get through this water. Days after Tropical Storm Debby. Is this what your house normally looks like?
Heck no.
Look at this.
I laugh, but it's like a laugh borderline cry. There's never water here. Ever. This is not water.
Kim Gregory and her neighbors know.
Yeah, so I think the point is made. But anyways. 70% of Florida is sea level. Exactly. Yeah, look at the new oceanfront property that Trump is bragging that you'll now have. Let me just rewind here.
And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming.
I swear to God, this man is a fucking idiot.
Nuclear warmint. Yeah. Yeah, everything is completely normal, fine. What is that? This is fine emoji. Yeah. Oh, man. Welcome, Cognizant.
While I agree that the threat of nuclear war is serious, climate change is already here right now. It's not a looming threat, it's happening right now. But to him, it just means that we'll have more oceanfront property. Yeah. Hey, dipshit, what happens to the oceanfront property that we have now that will one day be underwater? See, this is what I don't get. So he's big on national security.
Yeah, there's nothing to get here, unfortunately, Mike. There's nothing to get here, unfortunately.
Right. So climate change is the biggest national security threat our country has ever faced because U.S. territory will literally be annexed by the ocean. And he's spinning that as a good thing. Imagine if Canada decided to just take over a couple of states. Washington is theirs now. Would you spin it as, hey, we just have some nice new neighbors that are closer to us? No, you would say we have to do something to stop this. We have to protect our sovereignty, our territory. But when it comes to climate change, he's like, oh, actually, it's positive. He's just so fucking stupid and unserious. But of course, he's saying this because he wants to drill, baby, drill, as he said multiple times, including during this.
Right, and he's only saying that because that's what the donors are paying him to say, right? Like, he literally has big oil behind him. Well, Fall Machina, if there was ever a chance, it's certainly looking a lot better that Trump loses. It's certainly looking a lot better. Louisiana is below sea level, or New Orleans. Yeah. It's like a soup bowl. It's like a soup bowl. It really is.
This interview. And what we should be doing currently, obviously, is transitioning from clean, renewable technology and getting off of fossil fuels, but he wants to do the opposite. Now, Elon Musk, being the electric car guy, you'd think might have something to say about that, maybe have a little bit of pushback there, just a tiny bit, but apparently not, because he didn't seem too concerned with Trump's shameless climate denialism in the year 2024.
Because he's also a climate change denier. Okay? Like, just to be clear, Elon Musk isn't in the business, because he actually cares about the environment, or he believes that the proliferation of more electric vehicles are actually going to help the climate crisis. He's just interested in what the stock portfolio is going to look like for him next quarter. That's what he's interested in. That's what he's interested in. Floridians will invade South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi and gentrify. And if you think I forgot Georgia, I didn't. No one messes with Georgia. That's right.
Ridiculous. But it gets even worse, because in this next portion, he might actually have gotten the two of them in trouble. And I say this because Trump was praising Elon Musk for his abusive labor practices, and I'll tell you why that's a no-no in a moment. But first, just listen to these elitist pricks laugh about the way that Elon Musk...
Okay, so we went over this, so I guess now we're going to actually get to hear what exactly is that they said. This is perfect. I'm glad he got these clips because, again, I ain't watching all that, boss. I'm sorry. I can't. I won't. I'm not going to watch the whole, Trump 2-hour interviews. No.
Treated workers.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone.
Tesla. He's talking about Tesla, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm 99% sure he's talking about Tesla. Don't do it to yourself. Yeah, that's it. Watch a summary. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Because, no, I'm not interested in incurring that much psychic damage.
You're all gone. So every one of you is gone. And you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it.
Trump was laughing about the richest man on the planet firing striking workers who were demanding better pay and better working conditions.
Right.
If you're a Trump supporter, this is what he thinks of you. He thinks it's funny that you peasants would dare ask for a little bit more from your rich bosses.
Right. And also, like, it's so hilarious that he tries to position himself as some kind of pro worker kind of candidate is hilarious. The Trump Musk Digital Group estimation session. Yeah, basically.
It's horrible from an optics standpoint. It's horrible policy-wise, politically, but on top of that, he might have violated labor laws because, as Jake Johnson of Common Dreams explains, quote, the United Auto Workers announced Tuesday that it filed federal labor charges against Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk after the former president heaped praise on the world's richest man for firing striking workers. The UAW argued Tuesday that Trump and Musk's remarks during...
Hello, howdy, welcome. Might have, yeah, like he's straight up saying, yeah, I fired workers because they were on strike, which is a no-no. You can't do that.
The conversation, which was viewed live by more than 1 million people, amounted to illegal attempts to threaten and intimidate workers who stand up for themselves by engaging in protected concerted activities such as strikes. Under federal law, workers cannot be fired for going on strike, and threatening to do so is illegal under the National Labor Relations Act, the union said. Shawn Fain, the UAW's president, said in a statement Tuesday that when we say Donald Trump is a scab, this is what we mean. Shawn Fain is exactly right, and he also added that these two idiots just want workers to sit down, shut up, and accept the crumbs that their bosses are willing to give them, and they're laughing about that. They're laughing about how greedy they are and how little they respect workers. They can't hide the contempt that they have for working class people, even when they know lots of people are listening to them speak. But I do want to move on to the post-interview cope from both Elon Musk and Donald Trump, because on the subject of how many people were listening to them speak, well, of course, it was a huge success according to them, and Elon Musk tweeted that the combined views of the interview totaled around 1 billion.
Yeah, okay, so let me stop you right there, Mr. Musk. No, that's not even, no, that's not possible. Yeah, get him, UAW. Do you think Trump is better to the Ukraine-Russia war? What? No. They're both going to continue to fund Ukrainians. They're both going to continue. That's not going to change. 1 billion refreshes to try to get it to work. Exactly. Yeah, maybe refreshes. Exactly.
Listen, Elon, if you're going to exaggerate, you should maybe try not to be too outrageous, so that way what you're saying is actually at least a little bit believable. I would imagine that this was a widely viewed event. Perhaps it got millions of views, but did it get 1 billion views or around 1 billion views? No, not a fucking chance.
Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, even like the largest video platform, YouTube, you can see, like, once somebody releases a video, it doesn't matter how popular, like, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Oh, for solving, I don't know about Trump solving anything, to be quite frank. Yeah, perhaps 1 billion Twitter bots. No, he's probably massaging the numbers there. I would probably venture that the simulacra is onto a more accurate representation of what happened here. Like, people just hitting refresh trying to get in.
Seriously telling me that 1 in 8 human beings on the planet tuned in for a 2.5 hour long audio only interview with Donald Trump and Elon Musk? Really? You expect us to believe that? I'm sorry. That is complete bullshit. And I don't know what metrics he's using to get to that number, but I will say that the numbers on Twitter are completely unreliable. And I say this as a live streamer myself. So the views that we get...
I'm sure when UAWs use Twitter over it, Musk will say he's rounding up. He says if he gets elected, the war would end in seconds. Does that sound plausible to you? Like, you do realize that Donald Trump lies like every other word, right? But yeah, he'll send Kushner in for a long-term peace deal like the Middle East.
Get on every live stream tend to go up and down. But once we started streaming the Leftist Mafia to Twitter every Thursday, we noticed that the views were getting conspicuously higher. Like, they keep going up, which is weird because they usually start low and then they go high. They peak at a certain point and then they go down.
Oh, you're asking my opinion. Yeah, I don't believe anything he says. Trump's plan to end the war, give our enemies everything they want.
Towards the end of the stream. But once we started streaming on Twitter, they just always go up and they never go down. And we realized that Twitter was probably counting people who tune in momentarily as a permanent viewer, which is not what any other platform does because that's unreliable. We're not getting an accurate count of the people watching our show, which explains why, the views just kept going up in perpetuity, even though that's not how any live stream works. They always go down towards the end of the night. Now, Elon Musk probably does this to encourage people to use Twitter, but even with this skewed system and fake numbers, I'm telling you, there's a 0% chance, even with the skewed fake numbers, that this interview even came close to 1 billion views or 1 billion impressions.
Yeah, like it's just not possible. Okay, like it's such a BS number that like it just doesn't make any sense.
Best, at the very, very best, maybe they got around 5 to 7 million views. That's being really charitable. But if I had to guess, I'd say probably around 2 to 3 million views in total. But we don't know. Either way, Elon Musk feels compelled to hype up this interview after there were so many technical difficulties, and he initially face-planted in the beginning, which RNC co-chair Laura Trump, by the way, blamed on the deep state. So maybe they were the ones doing the DDoS attack. I'm not sure. But Elon Musk decided to post his L on his own timeline for some reason by sharing an image of multiple news outlets.
Would it be different with Kamala compared to Trump? 100%.
Shitting on the interview that he did for a number of reasons, and Elon Musk put out this quote tweet in response saying, "A wall of negative headlines was so predictable. They're such NPCs. All this does is drive even more people to listen to the conversation themselves and realize how much the legacy media lies to them." Sure thing, buddy. Now, Trump's campaign spokesperson clearly had his...
Loopy Mike, welcome. Even when when it was live, Trump said it was 22 million and the Twitter count only had 11. Yeah, and you're gonna honestly and Elon is honestly gonna say that this had 1 billion views at the end of everything? Nah,
his feelings
come on.
hurt following the statement that Kamala HQ put out, which reads, "Donald Trump's extremism and dangerous Project 2025 agenda is a feature, not a glitch, of his campaign, which was on full display for those unlucky enough to listen in tonight during whatever that was on X.com. Trump's entire campaign is in service of people like Elon Musk and himself, self-obsessed rich guys who will sell out the middle class and who cannot run a live stream in the year 2024. Now, as you can see, Stephen Chung wrote in response, all these statements, yet nobody ever puts their name on them. Fucking cowards. But as you can also see, they literally put their name on it. Harris Waltz. So what are you talking about? I get that you're mad because it was a really good statement and they burned you and hurt your feelings, but they put their names on it. It's not some anonymous statement from a campaign staffer. They're saying this is what we say, signed Harris Waltz. They put their logo at the bottom. It's from the campaign. So that's just a very unhinged response. Now, I do want to get to Trump because he was also very peeved by everybody shitting on the interview, and he took to Truth Social to whine about it, writing, "I spent 2.5 hours last night talking to Elon, a fantastic guy, getting all-time record views and hits, and all the fake news wants to report is that the servers crashed because of the tremendous volume, and the show opened a little late. What they should be reporting was the incredible number of people that were listening. I absolutely hate the fake news media. So bad for our country." Now, he also shared Elon Musk's claim that 1 billion people were listening, saying, "An all-time record, but the media refuses to write about it because they are the fake news." Maybe they're not talking about the record-breaking number because they all know that that number is complete fucking bullshit. But listen.
Yeah, it's non-verifiable. Like, you can't, there's no way to verify.
Back when DeSantis launched his campaign on Twitter, the media was saying the same thing. They were reporting about how it was a technological disaster. And do you want to know what Donald Trump was doing at the same time? The same exact thing as we're all doing. Shitting on it. He wrote, "Wow, the DeSantis Twitter launch is a disaster. His whole campaign will be a disaster. Watch." What a shame. Joining the fake news media to shit on Elon Musk's interview with Ron DeSantis. And I don't know if you noticed, but he was dead naming X in capital letters, mind you. Very, very disrespectful, Don. But one thing that he was right about is how disastrous DeSantis' campaign was, because it was a disaster, and the launch was a disaster as well, thanks to Elon Musk, who couldn't competently host an interview because Twitter obviously couldn't handle that much traffic. But I mean, if you knew it was a disaster...
Well, thank goodness that, that disaster, that Trump's debut on Twitter Spaces was also a disaster. So maybe it's foreshadowing his disastrous campaign.
And you had a little bit of experience seeing how this goes in the past. Why would you agree to this knowing that you could also be a laughingstock? He agreed to it.
Didn't that happen with DeSantis? Exactly. The Twitter curse, hopefully.
Now he's mad that the fake news media isn't giving this interview the respect that it deserved. I mean, it's just an interview. It's an unnecessarily long, meandering interview where you talk over Elon Musk and you say the same shit that you've been saying for the past 4 years, right? But the reason why he did it is because Elon Musk is a donor. And like all corrupt politicians, Trump is happily doing exactly what his donors ask of him. But regardless of how, they want to spin it, this interview was an unmitigated disaster, predictably so. Everyone can see it, and no amount of coping and seething from these two dipshits is going to change our perception of it.
I hope so. Because all attention is good attention. Well, yes, but also at some point, I think it turns. I think it turns, negative. At some point, because like the more this guy talks, the more deeper he digs himself into his own political grave, right? And to like follow up on that,
Jonathan Chait, political analyst.
Hey.
Jonathan Chait, political analyst and writer for the New York Magazine, put out a column this week where he talked about the kind of ironic situation that Donald Trump is in. And here is that ironic situation. And it is that the crazier Donald Trump gets, the worse his campaign does. And the worse his campaign does, the crazier Donald Trump gets.
right? It's like a feedback loop. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing the candidate test the limits of that proverb.
Donald Trump, as Chait points out, and I've explained this too in recent segments, is in this self-perpetuating cycle of being insane, and his insanity hurts his campaign, which makes him more insane, which hurts the campaign more. He is stuck in this endless loop that he cannot get himself out of.
I mean, like that's kind of like what he's doing, right? Like he's literally doing that. Like he's getting so much attention by being so by being so outrageous that eventually people are going to be like, okay, well, this dude's like a lunatic, and like it just kind of stops. It just kind of stopped being positive, and that's kind of frustrating him. So he's getting more frustrated. He's getting more unhinged, which is driving people away. And yeah, the loop continues.
But here is what Chait said in his column this week. When Trump was ahead, he was capable of making rational choices that allowed him to maintain his lead. Now that his lead is gone, so is his willingness to do things that enable him to win. He was largely heeding the advice of his campaign team and acting relatively normal, which is to say far from normal, but much closer to it than his usual performance. He stopped heeding the good advice his advisors are desperate for him to accept, but Trump doesn't want to heed this advice. He has been consumed by a mix of envy at Harris's popularity and grievance at his own displacement. Trump began claiming wildly that Harris's large crowds have actually been an elaborate hoax concocted through artificial intelligence. It confirms, once again, that he is completely demented.
Yeah, bro's living in an alternate reality, and like it's super, super, super freaking dangerous when you have somebody like that, being being on a path. Although those paths, that path is getting shorter and shorter, but he does have a chance to win, the arguably one of the most powerful positions, the presidency. And man, when you have somebody so divorced from reality, so self-absorbed, it's just a recipe for freaking disaster.
Losing campaigns often identify their failures and make a course correction. Trump's campaign is instead spiraling into a mental breakdown. And I could not agree more with what Mr. Chait says in this column. with the exception of Trump was able to make rational choices when he was up against Biden. No, he wasn't. It's just that President Biden and his, slowing down mentally, because yes, he is, that actually sucked up a lot of the media.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing, besides the obvious, the debate performance really put that out there. But besides that, Biden's campaign was already on its way down, right? Man, Biden's campaign was on a collision course. Okay, Biden's campaign with already we could see the trend months before. We could see where the trend was going, and it was not good. It's not great. So the debate was kind of like the perfect opportunity to be like, okay, look, here's the opportunity. We got to get this. We got to put pressure and get this guy out of here, because it's not going well at all. So all of that was taking away attention from Trump, right? Because Trump hasn't changed a thing, other than him being apparently more manic and more desperate, because he's realizing that the chances of him winning aren't as high as they were a couple weeks ago.
Is oxygen. So they didn't give Donald Trump's cognitive issues, which I still believe are far worse than anything Biden is suffering from. They didn't pay attention to Trump because they were too busy talking about Biden's issues, because that's what the media does, because God forbid it look like we're attacking Trump and not attacking Biden too. It's idiotic. But the media did that. They do this to themselves. Now you don't have Biden to go after. Now you've got to deal with the reality of this mentally ill, convicted felon that doesn't want to listen to the people who are smarter than him. And that's always been Donald Trump's problem. It was his problem when he was in the White House. He started off not with good people, but then General John Kelly came in as the new...
Well, Donald Trump isn't going to listen to anybody unless he feels like he's personally the guy making the decision, right? It's like dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum, right? I'm curious to know what is causing Trump more grief. His decrease, the decrease in his own popularity relative to the Harris-Walz campaign, or the cratering of the flow of donations to his own campaign. Yes. Nobody is smarter than Trump. Good thing I'm nobody. Could you imagine how Don Old will handle getting shot at and then losing? He's gonna have a Big Mac attack. That's actually kind of funny. That's actually kind of funny. I don't know why I envisioned a giant McDonald's Big Mac running after Donald Trump. I don't know. That just brought a very, very, very funny scene in my head.
New chief of staff a couple months into office. Remember, we were all told at the time Kelly was going to be the adult in the room. And Kelly tried. Kelly was smart. Kelly failed because Trump refused to listen to him, because Trump is jealous of other people being smarter than he is.
Which is everybody.
So Kelly had to go. Was replaced with yes men. Same thing with Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions, as much as I despise the guy, wasn't a complete and total moron, but he didn't do everything Trump wanted him to do, so Sessions had to go as Attorney General. In comes Bill Barr. Bill Barr did whatever Trump wanted him to do until it came time to overturn the election, so Bill Barr leaves. Gets replaced by somebody Trump thought would work out, he just didn't have enough time to do it. But every time somebody smarter than Trump gives a little bit of pushback, they're gone. And the people that are now working for his campaign see that. They know.
Yeah, and I think that's also pretty freaking dangerous. That's also pretty dangerous, considering that's the dude who's going to be in charge of the executive, right? And given the fact that Project 2025 is completely encompassing the idea of revamping the revamping the executive. That's pretty. Whew, man. I could see why the Heritage Foundation and these very not just wealthy but resourceful conservative groups have really pushed us with Trump. If Trump loses, then he has 3 sets of indictments to deal with, and Trump will be in prison. Man, he definitely deserves it. I hope so. I hope you're right.
That from his history. So even though they know he is making all the wrong choices, and they make suggestions like, well, we could do this, Trump doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to hear it. And they don't push back because they don't want to be fired. So when they offer good advice and Donald Trump doesn't take it, they just zip it, flick it, and done. They don't want to rock the boat. But by not rocking the boat, they're instead going down with the ship.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say they are inadvertently also causing the cratering of this dude's campaign, which I'm completely grateful for. At the rate he's committing crimes in full view of the public, it would be nice. You would think so, right? Like you would think in a normal, regular, sane justice system that someone like this dude would already be seeing consequences. But alas, here we are.
And I don't know which one is worse, right? Maybe you should just quit and save yourself, or be the band on the Titanic and just keep playing until it sinks underwater. Not exactly a noble ending like it was for those musicians on the Titanic, but it is what's happening. Donald Trump's mental health is going down the drain. His campaign is going down there with it. And the two are interconnected. And the worse one gets, the worse the other does, continuously dragging the other one even further down. Hi, everyone.
And the Supreme Court will give 13 members, will have 13 members if Trump loses and the Dems win the Senate. I don't know how willing the Dems are to actually be aggressive on the Supreme Court. The most we've gotten from them is like, yeah, reform is needed. We need possible term limits and ethic codes. Yeah, I don't see them being willing, even if they have the numbers, to actually seriously increase the amount of justices. I would argue that it's needed, but the Dems winning the Senate is the least likely outcome at this point. Now, I don't know. It's in play. It's a coin toss right now. It's all going to come down. It's all going to come down to literally like 1 or 2 races, essentially. Like if they manage to hold everything, then they might have a chance. They won't. You think they'll lose the Senate? You think they'll lose the Senate? I mean, it's a coin toss. It looks like it's going to come down to literally 1 or 2 races, right? From my understanding. And those would have to be must win. The Dems have to win it. There's no option. If not, they lose the Senate, right? The Supreme Court needs 1 justice for every federal circuit. Well, the Supreme Court needs like a lot of reforms, but that would be interesting. And maybe how many federal circuits are there? Okay, so there's 12 regional circuits. So I guess 13 for the tiebreaker. No, I agree, Michael Hassler. I don't think they will. I don't think so. It would be nice. It would be nice, but I don't think they will if they have If 13, am I wrong? Oh, okay. Okay, there's a 13th appellate court in DC. I think DC has its own one. Best we can hope, Kamala wins and Justice Harlan Crow retires. Man, fingers crossed from your typed words to the God's ears. Okay. I believe this interview is worth replaying because this is a very, very good interview.
On the Majority Report, Emma Vigeland out today. Joining me now, Dana Fisher, Director of the Center for Environment, Community, and Equity, Professor at the School of International Service at American University, author of Saving Ourselves from Climate Shocks to Climate Action. Dana, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Sorry for the Samuel leftist audio, but here we are.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam.
Let's start with, I guess just so you...
or maybe the guest has the wrong output, because that actually, if I'm correct, just looking at her microphone, I think that's one of the Samsung USB handheld mics, and those are actually pretty decent. So maybe she has the wrong input, or maybe it's I don't know.
The broad strokes here. Sorry, I just lost my notes. You say that we need something called an anthro shift. Before we get to that, like, where are we in terms of assessing how well the fighting climate change movement has been?
I can answer that. I can answer that. It's not going very well. Okay. We've gained ground in some areas. There have been some important things that have been done. But overall, like, the actual core of what needs to be done to significantly address the climate crisis is, no.
To this point.
Well, I mean, let's start first with just thinking about how our society is handling the threat of the climate crisis. And so far, we're doing a pretty terrible job.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Live here from Gaza. Gaza is not alone. Alhamdulillah. With donations from individuals and charities.
Man, that's so sad.
We are nowhere near where we need to be in terms of reducing contributions to, anthropomorphic global change, in terms of thinking about emissions of greenhouse gases. I mean, greenhouse gases continue to go up at, with a slope that's very similar. You can kind of see it here. The slope continues at the same rate, even though places like the United States are using more and more clean energy. We're continuing to consume more. So
yeah, it's kind of it's kind of a screwed situation, if I do say so myself. 11 regional circuits, the DC circuit, and the federal court. 13, yeah, not 12. So I got it wrong. There's 11 regional ones. The 12th one is the DC circuit, and then there's the federal circuit as the as the 13th one, I should say. I'm sure that the market will solve this anytime now. Yeah, definitely. The market, the invisible hand of the market will roll up its proverbial sleeves, right, and get to work any day now. Yeah, we are free market heft.
We're continuing to emit as much, if not, the same rate of greenhouse gases as before. And that is the problem, because as long as those concentrations continue to go up, the world is going to continue to warm. And we are right now facing multiple risks simultaneously, right? We've got the Park Fire here in the United States. Out west, we've got, I believe, a hurricane just made landfall over in Florida, just like an hour ago or something.
Yeah, and we literally just watched images of that news clip of like what that looks like. Adam Smith up in here, of what that looks like, and that, by the way, it was a tropical storm. It wasn't like a big hurricane either. It's like regular F, but with a middleman tagging 20%. Like the good free market intended. Invisible hands up.
So that's the second hurricane to hit the United States so far this year, and it is August 5th. And we're sitting in a heat dome. So here in Washington, D.C., it's going to be just about 100 degrees for like, I don't know how many days we've had so far.
Yeah, very
normal. So we're
normal.
experiencing lots of the effects of the climate crisis, and we're just not doing what we need to do.
When we say we, or when you say we, are we talking about we as in the United States, or are we talking we as a species? Like, is there a differential there? Does one follow the other? What's the relationship between those things?
Well, so when I say we, I mean we as society broadly defined. However, the climate crisis is caused by those who burn fossil fuels, and those who have higher emissions tend to be those that are wealthier, right? So it is the advanced industrialized nations that have contributed the most to the climate crisis. In fact, we, the United States, has contributed the most absolutely to overall historical emissions.
Correct. Both really. We all have to play or it won't work. Yes. And also like the biggest players have to be at the front. Otherwise, like there's no, otherwise it's also like not, it's also not going to fly, right? Like if the literal biggest players on the map aren't going to play ball, then like it doesn't matter if all the other smaller players decide that they're going to do something about it. Not that they shouldn't, by the way, because this is everybody's problem. Yeah.
So when I say we, the whole world needs to deal with this.
Yep.
Not just like individuals. And when I say we, I certainly do not mean individuals, although a lot of fossil fuel companies have tried to redirect attention away from we as the general society to we as in you and me, and we need to change our power and change our eating and change our driving. It's actually a systemic issue, and the only way to address it is systemically.
Agreed.
While that's happening, and it's happening too slowly, what we're seeing is developing countries that are small.
Yeah, and like there's no amount of like individual actions by themselves that are ever going to amount it's not feasible that every single individual action is not going to surpass the systemic problem or the systemic root cause of what's happening here. It does not matter. It does not matter how much you individually try to do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do things, because you should, wherever feasible. Wherever feasible, every little thing that is within your power, you should do. But also like understand that we as individuals don't shoulder that, or shouldn't shoulder that.
Island nations are suffering much more of the risk and much more of the effect of the climate crisis. I mean, some countries are actually literally going underwater right now. People are having to evacuate, and they're experiencing the worst of the climate crisis so far. So I do mean we broadly, not just we as a country, but at the same time, some are contributing more than others, and we need to.
Yeah, it is depressing. Currently appreciate this weather. We're getting rain right now, so heat will be staying put.
Recognize that this is not an equal crisis.
Was there, and I want to get to more towards the solutions, but just did the movement to fight climate change start on the wrong foot? I mean, because when you say we as individuals can't do this by, we need a policy response. I remember 20 some odd years ago seeing a movie called The Real Inconvenient Truth and I think he was a Green candidate or had been involved in New York Green, which was a response to Al Gore's movie, which...
Hi, this is Mark Barton at Sandy Hook Promise in Newtown, Connecticut.
And hi, this is Nicole Hockley, also from Sandy Hook Promise.
It's credit.
Looking forward to October. Honestly, same. Like, I don't know if it's because of that jet wave that we're just outside the heat dome, but the nights, once the sun goes down, has been getting cooler. So I don't know if this is like the first inklings of fall coming within the next month or so, month and a half or so. But I'm not complaining. Pumpkin spice.
I think with widely making people aware of climate change, that Gore was talking about, turn off your light bulbs or whatever it was in terms of a reaction, like what we can do as individuals. And that the real inconvenient truth was that we need a more systemic approach. But by that point, I think that movie came out 4 or 5 years later. What's your sense of that?
Well, let me just say, so I was involved in doing research on climate change way back then in ancient history, right? So Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth was actually building off of the work that he did, which was extremely foundational in terms of getting the world to agree to the Kyoto Protocol, which was a legally binding treaty that was written in Kyoto, was finalized in Kyoto in 1997, that if implemented, and the world had followed through on that, and that's mostly developing countries, developed countries, including the United States and Canada and Russia, et cetera, had followed through on their commitments, we would be in a completely different world. So the inconvenient truth was it wasn't just about putting on sweaters and turning down the thermostat. It was actually about the inconvenient truth of all the things that had to change in our world. And so while Gore did not really shine a light on the systemic changes that were needed, I don't think it's fair to say that he wasn't recognizing the way that this was a political issue, because I think that he probably did the most to try to do something about the issue, but it just didn't work out the way he planned. As we remember, 2000 election.
And then George Bush, yes. And
does the ROMFA mean not setting international and national law, making mass pollution a crime against humanity? That would be nice.
And George Bush came in and basically killed the Kyoto protocols for all intents and purposes, I guess. And so
the Senate helped too. I would just say the Senate.
Yes.
Helped.
Well, I mean, that was in the air, as it were. I just remember what was her name? Whitman, Christy Todd Whitman, telling me somewhere around 2010 that if liberals hadn't been so aggressive about climate change, maybe conservatives wouldn't deny that it was a problem.
That's a weird statement, I would say, because anybody who's paid any attention recognizes that conservatives who are, tend to be sympathetic to fossil fuel interests, or even in the pockets of fossil fuel interests, are going to always support fossil fuel interests. And the inconvenient truth, here it is actually that as long as we want to support fossil fuel expansion, we can never address the climate crisis adequately unless the silver bullet emerges that doesn't exist today, that makes it possible to burn fossil fuels while not contributing to the climate crisis.
Right. We just don't, it's just not feasible. She's right. George Bush, the failed oil man? Yeah. He seemed to turn to individual action when politics seemed to be going molasses slow.
So carbon capture and storage and something like that. If that ever were scalable, which it's not, perhaps we could continue the way we are now.
Right. Like at this time, it's not. And who knows if that's going to be scalable enough to the point where it would be, being net, we would be net negative, meaning carbon is being actually sucked out instead of just being neutral. Who knows when that will be feasible? And the problem, the problem is we don't have time. We don't have time. Energy storage should have been developed in the 1930s. There are plenty of technology which could have been implemented in that era. Yeah, actually, yeah. Wasn't totally impossible. By now, we could have been miles away. It's all my fault. I threw a plastic carrier bag away after only using it 6 times in '94. Exactly.
But otherwise, we need systemic changes.
With all that said about what Gore was able to do, and we can go over what the Biden administration, their report card essentially. At the end of the day, you write that we can't rely on, Kamala Harris is not going to necessarily save us.
Kamala Harris had a chance. I mean, she could have saved us. I mean, she has a history of running. When she ran in 2019, right? She actually said she was going to stop fracking in the United States. If she stopped fracking in the United States, that would be huge because it would basically stop the natural gas boom that's happening in our country. It would substantially reduce our carbon footprint as a country, and it would put us on a completely different path. It would also infuriate a bunch of swing states and a bunch of red states. And she has said, I believe on the 28th of July, she said that she has stepped back from that position. So there are things that somebody in political power can do. It's just that it's about systemic change that's going to mean that political interests and capital interests, that is fossil fuel interests, which have privileged access to both natural resources, but also political power in our country at this point.
Yeah. It's incredibly frustrating, but she's right.
Are going to be very unhappy with it. And nobody wants to, poke the bear if it were. But the problem is if you're not going to poke the bear, lots of polar bears are going to drown. And a lot of people who live on the coast are also going to experience the climate crisis. And we're going to see it, these climate shocks that we're experiencing now are the least that we're going to ever experience in the rest of our lifetime, right? Because they're just going to get worse and worse and come more frequently. Because that's the effect of, concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
So in terms of moving forward, though, the fundamental thing that people have to understand is that the systemic problem we have, it's almost on twofold. We have a systemic political problem and we have a systemic sort of like economic problem, both of which contribute to...
But one is the one that started the feedback loop, Sam. Does that make sense? One of them started this feedback loop for the purpose of enriching themselves. Sand batteries, 1,000-year-old technology, heat pumps and geothermal storage, 100-year-old technology, molten batteries, that's pretty cool, 800-year-old technology, and fluid batteries, 100-year-old technology, I could go on. Yeah, I don't doubt that it's just so frustrating. Because it's not about we don't have the technology. It's not about that we can't. Okay, because we absolutely can do things differently. I have heavily invested in fossil fuels and I'm feeling very enriched.
Our inability, or both of which contribute to climate change, I guess, and to global warming. And we can't get...
Welcome back, Mono. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a minute and a half.
Get to the second one unless we address the systemic political problem, the first one. So what's the best way to do that at this juncture, too? I mean, they've had quite a run-up in terms of like being able to figure this out. And we should say also, just in the context of the fracking, we are now the world's greatest producer of fossil fuel, I guess, broadly speaking.
I just finished a course. I'm free again now. Oh, that's cool. Well, welcome back.
We export more natural gas and more oil now than any other country in the world.
Has ever.
Yeah.
Has
ever.
I
don't know if it's as ever, but at the moment, we are #1 in the world in terms of exporting fossil fuels. which is coming under the most climate aggressive president we've ever had, right?
All right, well, let's talk. I mean, just let's do that just so that we can get that, on the table as well. Biden's record. There's some things that he's done that have been really good. Some things not so great. Give us the sort of the top of the good and the bad.
Well, the top of the good is that, I've for over 25
starting yet another in September.
years, I've been studying climate policymaking in the United States. I've written a ton of papers about failed climate efforts, failed climate legislation. And this is the first time I ever got to publish one that was a success through the Inflation Reduction Act, which was not what Biden had wanted. Biden came in with the more aggressive Build Back Better Act. He couldn't get it through the Congress. So we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the most aggressive piece of climate legislation that's ever been passed. And it was thanks to President Biden. And President Biden, beyond that, has invested widely in a clean energy transition. If we were not sitting, looking over the precipice of the climate crisis, this kind of incremental policymaking, if it had happened in 2000, we'd be golden, right? It's just we don't have time for it at this point. So yeah. I would just say that, Biden's done a lot, but it's just not enough given where we are. And the things that have gone poorly is that the Biden administration has continued to approve and expand fossil fuel consumption of fossil fuel infrastructure building, right? They approved the Willow Project. They allowed the deal, which granted the Inflation Reduction Act probably wouldn't have been passed if there hadn't been a deal with Senator Manchin, right, which basically tied clean energy expansion to fossil fuel expansion, right? So they go hand in hand. All of that, though, means that we have companies in the United States that are continuing to build out more infrastructure to extract more fossil fuels. And all of the science says that we need to have basically, flattened out our expansion or our consumption, and then we need to start going down on our consumption by 2030. And we're not. We're going up. We continue to go up. And
and that's just to be clear, that's just 6 years from now. That's nothing. Like we'll blink and we'll blink and we're already in 2030. That's how time works.
Sending it elsewhere. So even though in the United States we have more clean energy, we're continuing to extract more and send it all over the world to anybody who will buy it.
Being able to have something to always protect myself with this Byrna allows me to have that peace of mind no matter.
First off, let me note that the idea that if something had been done 24 or 23 years earlier would have made such a dramatic difference really points out the rate in which we are sort of like the amount of time, how quickly we're running out of time.
We are definitely running out of time. I mean, there's so many indications of that, and yet people aren't paying attention.
Just put in context the pause on the liquid natural gas export facility. I spoke to Bill McKibben in February. I think it was just literally weeks before he was planning to go down and get arrested in protest of that facility, and we got the permitting pause. How important is it, and how durable is that pause?
But science doesn't fill the pockets of the obscenely rich directly. Well, yeah, this particular science does not. Every year we don't change. It takes 2 years to undo. Obviously not accurate, but you get the point. The point being is you take every year we stay the same. It just takes a lot longer. It takes more time. It takes more time. It takes more resources, and it takes more money. It's better to just solve the issue now than keep continuing to let it go. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I mean, first of all, the Secretary of Energy said very, very explicitly in her speeches that it was a temporary pause. So everybody who, screamed from the rooftops that the climate movement won, I think they're fooling themselves. It was a pause. It was a political maneuver. Unfortunately, it's pausing building out additional fossil fuel infrastructure, but there's already infrastructure in place that is being built and expanding our capacity now. So, as we're number one in terms of fossil fuel exporting in the world, we're the number one in natural gas, extraction. Do we really need to be more? I mean, that's an interesting question that I think is worth asking. And certainly if you want to say that we want to...
Yeah, I guess that's one analogy. One analogy to illustrate the severity of the situation.
Celebrate a pause. It's just hard to celebrate that while we continue to extract so substantially. And
Does
we
it
export
inhibit
it all over.
I mean, my understanding of the positive of it is that it inhibits investment. It makes the investment in this technology, if you will, more risky, and that on some level, the idea. I mean, even like I think it was Andreas Malm we had on a couple of years ago was like, you blow up a pipeline, and eventually investors start going like, this may not be the best place for me to invest my money, and other investments begin to sort of be able to compete with that.
Sure, if the pause lasts long enough. But remember, this is a pause. We're not talking about stopping, not canceling a project.
Right.
Nothing was canceled. In fact, I think that on Biden's watch, more public lands have opened up to fossil fuel extraction than during the Trump administration, which is, I think, a notable thing. And that would go in the negative.
Nice we can laugh while listening to this doomer crap. I'm coping.
Category in terms of, climate losses. Which is why basically in the end, and goes back to the question you asked me originally, I say that because of where we are politically, where we are economically, the only way that we can realistically imagine that we can save ourselves is through civil society and through a climate movement that, pushes against power in a way that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, another way of putting it is direct action.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Yeah. I'm already subscribed, Sam. You're good. All right, folks, we got a few headlines to go through. So some good news. We'll start with some good news. Representative Ilhan Omar defeats Don Samuels in Democratic primary for Minnesota, 5th congressional district. My mental checkout along with back how this in general was going. I don't blame you, to be honest. I don't blame you, to be honest. I know you you were memeing and hot earlier, but I actually completely understand that. I actually completely understand that. U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar decisively won the Democratic primary for her district on Tuesday, widening her margin of victory in a rematch against Don Samuels, whom she just narrowly beat 2 years ago. Heat with the 100 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I would rather not have been right on some things. Well, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. My groceries are here. Well, go get them get them eats. Exactly. The AP called the race for Omar, who's in her third term. She won by 13 percentage points in Minnesota's 5th congressional district, according to unofficial results from Minnesota's Secretary of State of Office. She received 56.2 compared to Samuel's 42.9. I'm incredibly honored by this victory tonight, Omar told a jubilant crowd of supporters on the patio of Minneapolis' restaurant Tuesday. I'm honored to represent the people who welcome me and my family as refugees to this incredible state. Her constituents in Minneapolis and in her ring suburbs make up one of the most deeply blue congressional districts in the country, voting reliably for Democrats in general elections for decades. She will likely cruise to victory this fall against her Republican opponent. The nonpartisan Cook Political Report puts the 5th district as a solid Democratic column, estimating a margin victory of 30 points. Omar and Samuels first ran against each other for the Democratic nomination in 2022, when she defeated him by roughly 2,500 votes or 2 percentage points in that primary. Omar focused on this matchup in a way she hadn't 2 years ago. She doubled up on organizing supporters to get them to turn out for the polls, she spent money on television ads, and her team contacted tens of thousands of voters in the final days. Meanwhile, former Minneapolis council member Samuels told WCCO on Tuesday he took lessons from that campaign and scaled up his operation this time. Campaign volunteers, he said, grew 13-fold from just 100 to more than 1,300 working on his behalf. He also declared his candidacy sooner than he did 2 years ago to have more of a runway in the lead up to the primary. We had a close call that inspired many people who are on the fence to think with a little more of their help. We could have won, said Samuels on his 2022 loss. That feeling of regret and apology turned to energy, and people jumped on board in a way that I've never seen before. But ultimately, he did fall short on Tuesday, and the gap between them widened. In a statement, Samuels conceded the race to Omar and praised the work of his campaign. Still, we believe the results show that people are hungry for a different approach to leadership, one that is focused on the people of the 5th Congressional District and challenges they face. Taking on an incumbent, let alone a party-endorsed incumbent, with a national fundraising base is a Herculean task. As the results became clear on Tuesday, the DFL party chair, Ken Martin, who was at Omar's watch party, said he had expected this outcome. Quote, the last time it was close because she acknowledged as much. She didn't run as a vigorous campaign. Martin said she ran a vigorous campaign this time, highly visible, very organized, so the margin shouldn't surprise anyone. Thank God she won. I'm sorry Cori Bush lost her primary. Me too. Me too. I'm hungry for a different approach. Cheesed Borger. This new mobile app design is worse than Trump winning this year. The Twitch app? You're talking about the Twitch app? The National Observer's Tuesday's election was largely seen as yet another test for progressive members of the House known as the Squad. Some faced primary defeats like Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. Omar made history in 2019 as the first Somali American to be elected to Congress and one of 2 Muslim women sworn in. Awesome. I'm super glad that Omar managed to very soundly defeat her primary challenger. So I'll take that as a W. I'll take that as a W. When I open the app, it dumped me straight onto a full screen live of people I don't even follow. I know. The mobile app is I don't even use it. I'll put it to you that way. I barely touch it. I barely touch the mobile app. I would rather fire up my PC and have my screen going on here than to actually use the Twitch app on the mobile. Right now, can't get rewards or anything by the app Frosty. You can use all the BTTV emotes, Twitch app as such. You can train it a bit. Yeah, I mean, you can make sure that you can ask it to only show you like the people you follow, I think. I mean, I haven't touched that app in quite a while. I'm never on my PC anymore. I just use my phone on this. I don't know. I don't use Twitch as much anymore, but this might just kill it for me. Frosty is the app I'm using. Gotcha. So you can use you can use Frosty as an alternative. Gotcha. Well, I might consider just consider just downloading that and using that, because I don't use the Twitch app for that very reason. It's not great. It's not good. Revamp for YouTube. Gotcha. Someone who isn't me uses a third party Spotify with no ads. Nice. So someone who isn't you, yeah, I completely, yeah, that's fine. And you can use all the emotes. Yeah, okay, you know what? I might just do that. I might just do that because, like, it's so nice to have a functional app that's on your phone. Because, like, right now I use this for the YouTube. Was using a better Twitter client as well before jumping out of it. Well, yeah, Twitter's kind of meh. The only thing I didn't use alternative client was for Twitch until now, and Blue Sky. Blue Sky's dead though. I kind of like Blue Sky though. I'm like kind of sad that like it's not it's not as popular. There's not as many people because like Blue Sky is actually kind of cool. I like the way Blue Sky looks. Yeah, I'm sad that no more people don't use it. Blue Sky is aggressively fine. It's not an alternative to me because Jack made it. Yeah, it's like it's just Twitter. It's Twitter, but like not Elon's Twitter. That's now become this like. Yeah, I just wish more people used Blue Sky. Like Blue Sky is how Twitter is supposed to be. If that makes sense. Blue Sky is how Twitter is supposed to be. It's just sad that more. The trouble is Twitter wasn't Elon's until it was. I don't trust it. I don't doubt it. I don't blame you. Give me 1 second, folks. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Phone call. The trouble is Twitter was Elon's Twitter until it was, and that's all there is to it. Yeah. It's born from the same cringe tech bro space that eventually thought Elon could save Twitter. The end goal of the app is always to attention, which is money, and people want to feel something. Even if the feels outrage or annoyance is better than boredom. You know, I don't disagree necessarily. All right, folks. So let me just speed run through this because we've got a few minutes. Kamala Harris leads Donald Trump in 5 battleground states. So the tides are turning, folks. The tides are turning. Kamala Harris is ahead on, or tied with Donald Trump in 6 of 7 battleground states, according to a new survey released Wednesday, erasing the lead's former Republican president enjoyed before Biden dropped out. The Political Report survey of 7 key swing states found Harris leading Trump in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Arizona, tied with Trump in Georgia. Nevada is the only battleground state that Trump still leads in. The poll conducted by Democratic firm BSG and Republican polling firm GS Strategy Group has a margin of error of plus or minus 4.7 percentage points to 4.9. Harris's lead in 3 states, Arizona, Michigan, and North Carolina, are within that range. The findings suggest multiple paths to the 270 electoral votes needed to win the election have opened for Harris, the vice president and Democratic nominee, after Biden's struggles in the Sun Belt states of Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina forced his campaign to increasingly bank on the so-called blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, which weren't looking too great either, to be honest. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? I love that. The Trump led Biden in 6 of 7 battleground states and was tied with Biden in Wisconsin. In a survey the same pollsters conducted in May, but Harris has now largely consolidated the Democratic base. The survey found with 91% of voters who backed Biden in 2020 now saying they'll vote for Harris, compared to the 82% this group in May who said they would vote for Biden. Trump leads Harris head-to-head among independent voters. Harris leads Trump head-to-head among independent voters across the 7 battleground states, 48-40, whereas Trump previously led Biden 41-38 among independents. So TLDR, the trend is clear. The trend is clear, and it is shifting. As each new poll comes out, it does seem like the shift is pretty solid. One of the few races I'm interested in is Ted Cruz. I hear this year he might actually be possible to beat him. From your typed words to the God's ears, because that would actually be pretty freaking satisfying, to be honest. Folks, if you're in Florida, pay attention, okay? There is a referendum on the ballot to alleviate abortion rights. Did the weird little kissing booth on Trump talk had on X make any difference to polling? Too early to see, probably, yeah. But I suspect it's not going to make too much, right? Because, from what we were watching earlier, it was just, if anything, it might have just, it might have hurt him. But we'll see. We'll see. As you said, no polls on that have come out. Yeah, I can't suspect it helps him. So yeah. We have a 10 gazillion million billion gajillion people listen to him. Donald Trump still doesn't have an answer on how vote on abortion measures in his home state. And it's about to become a lot harder for him to avoid it. It was super rambling and he started doing Slavoj Žižek impersonation. I didn't think about that, but I didn't think about it that way. 4 months ago, Trump announced he favored leaving the issue of abortion to the states. Now state-level referendums on lightning rod issues are making ballots across the country, including on Monday in the battleground state of Arizona and on Tuesday in Missouri. And in Florida, where Trump is registered to vote, the former president has yet to say how he'll cast his own vote on the measure known as Amendment 4, which abolishes the state's new enacted abortion ban after 6 weeks of pregnancy. So, hey, folks, the important takeaway from this, okay? Because there's really nothing else to gather from this other than if you are in Florida or you know somebody in Florida, make sure to pay attention to the amendments. Amendment 4 would abolish the newly enacted abortion ban after 6 weeks of pregnancy, the fetal heartbeat bill. So that's the important takeaway from this, folks. Again, if you are in any of these states, we've gone over them. We've gone over these ballot initiatives: Arizona, Missouri, Florida, This is on the ballot. So please pay attention. And if you are in any of these states or know people in these states, please bring this to their attention because it is one of the few ways direct democracy is in play. It is one of the very few tools that we have. And getting this law repealed is important. Elon tried to explain the risk of higher CO2 per minute incorrectly, which went about as well as you'd expect. Trump was basically silent and immediately changed the topic. We saw that earlier. Global nuclear warming. Yeah, amazing. Trump's pro-abortion in practice, 100%. Like, he literally was bragging about him being instrumental in putting the justices that enacted that overturned Roe v. Wade. So definitely he's pro. I'm sorry, he's pro. He's anti-abortion, but yeah, he's anti-abortion. But I'm pretty sure for him personally, he is more than willing to, more than willing to be pro-choice, as most Republicans are, if that makes sense. Yeah, I guess I should have just said that. Rules for thee, but not for me. Exactly. But anyways, the point being is that these amendments are in play, and definitely pay attention to the ballots. My mistress cannot be allowed to have children. My wife would find out. Yeah, seriously. Like, how many times have Republicans gone through that, right? Yeah. All right, folks, I gotta get going. It's 7 o'clock. And we got through all the important stuff. I gotta get out of here. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you, Mono. Thank you, Michael Hessler, and thank you, Heat, for modding the chat. I appreciate it. Trump is pro whatever the crowd cheers for the loudest at the moment. Yep, that's also true. You didn't do anything. Well, you showed up, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you hanging out. Thank you all for stopping by. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget, folks, there are many different ways you can support the channel. You can hit the follow button. You can toss biddies, subscriptions. I see you on the YouTube. Keep liking the stream. Thank you, guys. Join the Discord, folks. We have movie night at the last Saturday of every month. So consider doing that. This month we're doing Dune 2. Dune number 2. And join the Discord, folks. And consider checking out the merch store. I appreciate it, folks. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I'll be on. I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. See ya. I was making dinner, no problem. TikTok. All right, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.